He's actively denying it. So why do people employ this technique?
I think the most obvious reason is because they can't handle what the truth is, right? Welcome to another episode of Rebel Therapy. I'm Katie, one of your hosts.
I'm your other host, Michelle. Today we're going to do rebel culture. And this is where we're looking at pop culture through the lens of how it relates to therapy, essentially. And today we're going to talk about Widow's Bay, which is a show on Apple TV. I believe you've seen some of it at least, Katie, right?
I have, and I have specifically seen what we're talking about. So there you go. I am ready to go.
Excellent. So we're going to watch a short clip and then talk about it, react to it. So here we go.
Was there cannibalism?
No. I don't think that's right.
I obviously have my thoughts about this clip because I've picked it, but is there anything you want to respond to immediately?
I just think it's funny. I mean, obviously it's meant to be funny. And first time I saw it, it kind of tickled me. Yeah, I like slapstick, and there's sort of like a visual gag in here that I like. So, yeah.
Yes.
And I also find the mayor
Yeah.
like both endearing and also amazingly annoying. And I go back and forth depending on what the scene is. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's kind of
Yeah,
meant to be, right?
yeah,
So the basic premise of the show is that it's this island, apparently haunted. All of the residents think it is, but there's this mayor that's like determined to have a lot of tourism and kind of turn the town around. It's a little bit kind of run down, but all these weird things keep happening that ostensibly are ghosts or ghouls or whatever, like paranormal activity. And the angle I was kind of looking at it from was the word denial, essentially. Like, that was the first thing that jumped out to me about this character, that he's pushing so hard for it to be not how it is and keeps getting kind of confronted with the reality that it isn't how he would like it to be, that it is paranormal. I think that clip really illustrates it very clearly. So thinking about, like, in your experience, why do people employ this tactic, right? Because it's played for comedy, right? And it's like, essentially there
yeah.
is the article that says like literally cannibalism in huge letters, right? Which is like, it's literally a screaming sign, and he's like actively denying it. So why do people employ this technique?
Well, I mean, I think the most obvious reason is because they can't handle what the truth is, right? Like it's the truth is either too scary, too disturbing, too unsettling, or it just impacts their sense of self, and there's a sense that they can't sort of integrate that. So if we're talking about people operating in good faith, that's sort of the caveat, because I mean, otherwise people just lie because for any of the reasons that people lie. But I think when they're employing denial as a strategy, and from a Gestalt perspective, the type of therapy that we do, I would consider it a strategy. If I cannot deal with something, I've got to figure out a way to make it okay for myself. And I think denial is one of those great strategies that lets you do that.
That it has this protective property, essentially.
That's right.
And I think what is interesting is like often there's different layers of it, and it's like the first layer of it, of why the person might not be able to handle the truth, seems obvious, but as you kind of peel back, it's like more and more, it gets deeper and deeper. And yeah, I guess it is difficult, right? When somebody is trying to essentially like push through continual barriers,
Hmm.
because of something that is fundamentally frightening to them, or because there's like an outcome they essentially want. In this
Yep.
instance, right? So on the surface, it's like, yes, he wants whatever, more tourism. He wants the town to be doing better, right? But it's like, as you get deeper into the story, it's he's worried about his son. There's this idea that no
Yep.
one can leave the island, that was born on the island, that they'll essentially die. So he's worried for his son. But you actually see that the denial is actively hurting the relationship. The son is angry with him all of the time. And even the physical manifestation of denial, like he has this twitchy energy, like he was going to crawl out of his skin in a way, because it's like he can't tolerate what's happening right in front of him. How do you see the sort of impact on relationships, this even protective form of denial?
Well, I actually hear it all the time from my teenage clients whose parents, well intentioned, let's assume it's a well intentioned piece of advice or whatever. This idea of like fake it till you make it, which to me is just another way of saying denial. And I think it's down to people who have not learned how to support these uncomfortable feelings. So, you use the word tolerate. I think that's a really good word. If I don't know how to tolerate these difficult feelings, I have to do something to distance myself from them. And I think fake it till you make it really is, it's pretending, which I think is another word for denial. And it's this assumption that if I can just sort of push it away, eventually it'll go away and then I'll be fine. And what I say to my clients is we have feelings and we can suppress them or push them away or pretend they're not there, but they don't actually change. The only thing that changes feelings is to feel them and let that process unfold, and then it does resolve on its own. I think it's a misunderstanding of how feelings work. And I think to your first question, how does that impact relationships? It creates barriers. It's very hard to achieve any kind of intimacy. I mean, any kind, like between parent and child, for example, if as your kid, I can't tell you the truth because I don't think that you can tolerate the messiness or the scariness or the whatever it is of my feelings, I have to hold that back. And that creates actual barriers between people.
Yeah, you're hitting on something that I often have with people, not the barrier part per se, but essentially the idea that the first barrier is actually between yourself and your actual feelings, And oftentimes I get people saying like, but I don't want to feel this.
Okay.
And it's like, fair enough. I get that you don't want to. And trying to kind of think your way out of it, I'm always like, does that work? And they're like, no, it doesn't. But it doesn't stop people from continually employing that strategy. And I think that to your point, it's like because they haven't learned or they don't feel the support to be able to actually go into the feeling, right? Like it's too scary or if it's too overwhelming, they don't know how to allow it to kind of move through them, right? Like yeah. So it's like, how do you convince someone to want to feel something that they're actively pushing against? It's like,
I
I
would say
can't.
as a therapist, yeah, well, as a therapist, I would say I don't. I never force people to feel their feelings because I would argue, and I think there are different kinds of therapy that perhaps see this differently, but from a Gestalt perspective, and obviously you know this as well, if a feeling is there and one of those feelings is resistance, I don't want to do this, I don't want to feel this. I love it when they can articulate it that clearly, actually. Often they can't. And I'll say, okay, great, we don't have to. There's a reason that that resistance is there. There is something happening. So let's address what's happening first. And then I think that, eventually you get to a point where the feelings can be felt, but it takes time. It takes learning. Well, first of all, it takes sitting with somebody who knows how to support, right? And that's what therapists are good at, obviously. And then it takes knowing what it feels like to be supportive enough to be able to step into that feeling. And I think for a lot of people that come into my office, it's the first time that's happened for them. So it's something that needs to be taken slowly and with great care. So for me, it's like this great, amazing indicator when they're like, well, I don't want to feel that. Okay, cool. That means it's important, which is great. So let's support the process so that it's not scary, as opposed to pushing through, which is why the fake it till you make it thing, that's not for me. I mean, I get it. And also, like I said, if that's how people are, like, we just talk about it, but I think there's a gentle way to demonstrate support. And like I said, that's what a therapist can provide. And sometimes for the first time, people are like, wow, I didn't know that it could be less terrible or it could be less painful. It's still scary, but it's like you either go into the dark room by yourself or you go into the dark room knowing that you've got somebody with you holding your hand. It makes a huge difference. You're still going into the dark room, it's still scary, but knowing that there's
Yeah.
someone there who has your back changes the game.
Yeah, I think that's important. Like the idea that they're having that experience with you. So they're learning it slowly and experientially. Like they're learning it through feeling their body in the room with you or virtually, not trying to think their way through their feelings. Yeah, the idea of fake it till you make it, that kind of push through at all costs, I think is such an old school mentality. And
Hmm.
I think people employ it because they feel like it works, right? And I guess it works in the sense of like maybe if you're trying to, I don't know, whatever, achieve something externally, that pushing through can sometimes create that, but that the underlying tension actually never leaves you. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I would say it does work, actually. but it carries an enormous cost. And I think that there are situations in which faking it till you make it, as a short-term sprint or a short-term use of your willpower or whatever to get through a difficult situation can be very helpful. If I'm at work and I'm having a terrible day and I don't work in an environment where I can feel my feelings all the time, it's useful to be able to fake it till I make it till I get home. So the idea is that it's not that you suppress never, and I think that being able to compartmentalize or suppress your feelings, I think is actually very effective. It's a survival strategy, right? Like I don't have time or the safety to deal with this right now, so I have a mechanism to just push it over there so I can get on with what I have to do. My point is that when you get to the end and you do achieve that place of safety, whether it's through someone else's supporting you or whatever else, that's when you explore those feelings. And as long as that flexibility is in place, then I think that's a healthy way to go. I've talked about the idea that from a Gestalt perspective, it's not about one tool that always works. It's about having as many tools as possible and being able to flexibly move between and also have the right tool for the situation. So suppression is fine, but it costs a lot and it takes a huge amount of energy. So do it here in the short term as long as you support yourself after. It can be very effective, I think.
Like to be able to do it with choice, not to just do it out of default. And I do often say to people, like when they are sort of testing out the new way of doing it, where they're actually feeling their feelings, that
Yeah.
old strategy is not going to leave you. Like you'll be able to employ that old strategy, right? Like oftentimes that's the default strategy that you're actively having to sometimes push against if you choose to. But that type of support, that type of tool doesn't actually leave you. But I do like that point that you're saying that it is always scary. And I think that is a misunderstanding that sometimes clients have where they think like, okay, well, I felt my feelings this one time, like it went okay. The next time I do it, it's not going to be scary. And it's like, no, it can be scary still. It still is sometimes going into this unknown. But you have a different sense of faith of making it through because you have that experience. But the fear is still potentially there.
Yeah, but even that fear, I think, needs to be honored. I'm thinking of a particular client whose parent is really into this whole fake it till you make it idea, which is fine. But the thing is, the challenge is that it's the only strategy that this person employs. So our goal is not to throw out the strategies that do actually work, but it is about complementing the toolbox. So you've got a few other things as well. Because like I said, it does work, but it also keeps you pretty stuck and it creates barriers between you and the other person, and it's hard on your body to suppress feelings indefinitely. We see that all the time. But the fear that's
Yeah.
there is there for a reason, right? I mean, if I'm afraid of my dark feelings or my deep feelings or my what I don't even know what the feelings are, I just know they're huge. All that says to me is that I've never been supported enough to do it, so it does feel terrifying. And so, as therapists or as the individual doing this work themselves, as we do it together, it's honoring that feeling of fear, but also honoring the strategies that have successfully gotten you to this point, right? If there's no shame here, there's no failure. It's like you did this. This is amazing. Now let's build on the work that you've already done so that you've got more flexibility and can, live an easier life. It's what I always say to people. It's like it works, but my wish for you is that you'd have an alternative that's actually easier because the way you're doing it now is really hard. That's fine. But would you like something that's also a little
Yeah.
bit easier? And usually they're like, yeah, that would be great. I'm like, awesome, we can do that.
Yeah, like to find some ease. And back to Widow's Bay, right? Where it's like when you're talking about like the cost, it's like he literally has to be like physically assaulted by like a sea hag for him to be like, okay, maybe this is
Maybe we
real,
should talk
right?
about this.
And I do appreciate in the show, like sometimes it's almost like the literal darkness is kind of manifest as that kind of looming presence of confronting reality. And that's what I appreciated about the show, like because it does it with fear, but also with humor and thinking that like you don't have to push through at all costs, that there actually could have been an easier way, that the fake it till you make it strategy came with a huge cost,
Yep.
to your point. Yeah.
Well, everything comes with a cost, right? Every action or inaction carries consequences. So, what I'll talk to clients about is which are the consequences that are better aligned with you? What can you tolerate? What makes sense? And it's a combination of things, and it depends on the circumstance, which is why I really like the Gestalt approach, where it's like, what do I need right now? Not sort of a script for the rest of my life because it will not map onto the actual experiences that you're having. I mean, it's one thing to have a plan, that's great, but then to adjust in real time, because I can think I know what something's going to feel like until I actually get there, I don't know for sure. And so when I actually get there, maybe it's time to adjust. And that's what this type of support sets us up to be able to do, right? We don't know what's happening, we don't know what's coming, right? But we're flexible enough to be able to respond. Whereas, again, that's the last time I'm going to say it, fake it till you make it is so rigid that there's just no flexibility there. It's like, well, this is what I've always done. This is what I'm going to do. It's like, okay, cool. There were probably three other ways to do that, though, that weren't quite so painful. And that's just a
Yeah.
skill acquisition question, I think.
That the ability to, like you said, to actually respond to what is happening in the moment takes flexibility, because it's like you can have that strategy. You can have a strategy, right? And it's like if you try to employ it with every situation, it's actually not applicable.
Right.
So it's like you're trying to force, a square peg into a round hole.
That's what I was thinking. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that character of Tom Loftus in The Widow's Bay really illustrates that inflexibility. Like he's absolutely holding completely rigidly tight to this. Everything's fine. The island is not haunted. Let's just carry on with this,
Yeah. It was also the
And
obvious metaphor to so many people in life right now, but maybe we'll save that for another conversation.
You mean like denial or holding rigidly to a way of being?
Like, I will not see what my eyes tell me is true. I refuse to not see, or I refuse to see.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But there's a lot of real life interaction, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that almost feels like a bit of a tease for where we might go next week.
Yeah.
We're going to start alternating weeks. So one week will be me, I'll be doing a rebel culture take. And then next week, Katie, you'll be doing a rebel take. What are we calling it?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to workshop that. I'm not quite sure. I gotta think about it. I'll come up with something for next time. We'll test it and see how it goes. Suggestions? Let me know. There you go. There's the hook. Exactly. Okay. Well, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Till next time.
For coming on the. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.